know what one word can express the difference between simple existence and life? Emotions. Yes, it is precisely emotions that turn a mechanical black and white sequence of events into a bright, full life. And in this video, I will briefly tell you about the essence of this psychological flavor enhancer. And will also explain how the experiment, which involves a pretty woman, 2 bridges and a lot of men, helped to create an interesting theory of emotions. So, what is emotion? If we analyze the main current theories of emotion, then we can conclude that emotions are a complex, multifactorial phenomenon. Don't sleep yet, I'm watching you. This phenomenon includes 4 main components: cognitive, physiological, motivational and subjective. First, cognitive assessment of the situation. The point here is that almost any emotion goes hand in hand with our thoughts, which are almost impossible to separate from the emotion itself. That is, they are part of it. Second, the physiological basis of the emotion. This component is related to things like changes in heart rate, for example. As you all know, strong emotions can greatly influence this parameter. Remember, for example, yourself before a very important exam or a job interview. This also includes things like sweating and automatic changes in the work of internal organs. In the case of the exam, one of the manifestations may be real stomach pain due to fear. I personally witnessed how one of my university mates was so nervous that he had to urgently excuse himself to the toilet because he had to vomit. This physiological basis also includes facial expressions that automatically appears when experiencing a particular emotion. For example, when you are very irritated, you may not even notice it, but your facial expression will clearly signal to others, "Oh, not the best moment to bother me." Third, the motivational component. It reflects our intention or tendency to act, which we feel with a certain emotion. For example, some emotions have a clear stimulating effect, like making us jump for joy. Or let's say the emotion of enthusiasm, which encourages me to record this video right now. On the other hand, extremely negative emotions can make a person to hit their head against the wall, or in a fit of rage to file for a divorce. Fourth, subjective experience. Essentially, this component reflects how pleasant or unpleasant the emotion feels for us. That is, at what level of the scale between the poles good and bad we put it for ourselves. And now I will tell you about a very curious experiment that was conducted while testing Schachter and Singer's cognitive theory of emotion, which is also called two-factor theory of emotion. The experiment was conducted by 2 psychologists, John Dutton and Hale Aaron. They gave a task to an attractive woman to conduct a survey in one of the parks about the quality of the park's arrangement. As you understand, this topic was completely irrelevant and aimed to distract attention from the true purpose of the researchers. Moreover, this survey was to be conducted exclusively among men. So, the first half of the men were interviewed on a high swinging suspension bridge. The other half of the men were interviewed on a low, stable, wide stone bridge. After each interview, the woman gave them her business card with an offer to continue the interview another day in a different setting. So, as a result of the experiment, it turned out that the vast majority of the men who eventually called the woman back belonged to the group that had been interviewed at the suspension scary bridge. This is all very interesting, you might say, but how does this information confirm any theory of emotion? The fact is that the men from the suspension bridge were experiencing a whole bunch of unconscious physiological reactions. Just what we have already talked about. Rapid heartbeat, rapid breathing, increased sweating. Of course, this is all on a micro scale. We shouldn't imagine that poor men were sweating like that. Since they were interviewed by an attractive girl, it absorbed most of their attention. As a result, these men unconsciously associated their state of physiological arousal with her presence. As a consequence, they with greater probability interpreted their state as an emotion of interest or a slight crush on her. The point is that according to Schachter and Singer's theory, initially every emotion is based on a certain set of physiological reactions. Moreover, this set of reactions may be the same for different emotions. In the case of our experiment, we are talking about the emotion of fear and the emotion of mild crush. And depending on how our brain explains the physiological reactions we experience, this will be the emotion we recognize. Therefore, you can take note of the results of this research and use them to be more likely to interest your potential partner. For example, you can invite them to an extreme amusement park or to a really scary movie. In this case, you get bigger chances that your beloved will attribute a part of their excitement to your influence. Of course, this theory of emotion doesn't cover the entire spectrum of existing emotions. It has been proven that there are emotions that are not accompanied by any physiological changes at all. The cultural aspect also plays a huge role. For example, as people from Western culture, we can find it hard to understand the emotion of shame that the Japanese feel when they see someone consuming food in a public place which is not intended for it. So I don't advise you chewing a hot dog in a Tokyo subway. In general, the two-factor cognitive theory of emotions is just one of many others. For example, there is also the evolutionary theory of emotion, classical theories of emotion, and psychobiological theories of emotion, among others. Most of these theories can be complementary to each other and are used depending on the level at which we want to explain a particular emotion. So, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like, and if you didn't, well, what the hell are you still doing here?
We need to get out of here now.